Good evening from New York. I apologize, Michael, for the delay in starting this debate. I'm just going to start with my opening statement. Israel is an
Uh,
apartheid state is such an
but
inaccurate and malicious statement and is very divisive if anyone is truly sincere about seeing peace and harmony in the Middle East. Calling Israel an apartheid state is a betrayal to the memory of those South Africans who suffered through a real apartheid. In this debate, I will present a case that will challenge this premise that Israel is an apartheid state, and I hope to be convincing in my case. Thank you.
hey, Sebastian. Okay, yeah. Um, okay. Well, I've got an opening statement as well, which I think I'm supposed to go first on that. But anyway, um, here we are. It's a bit longer than yours. First of all, we've got to put it. We've got to explain the definition of apartheid.
Definitely.
Definition of apartheid relies primarily on Article 2 of the International Convention on the Suppression and Punishment of the Crime of Apartheid, 1973, referred to as the Apartheid Convention. The term "the crime of apartheid," which shall include similar policies and practices of racial segregation and discrimination as practiced in Southern Africa, shall apply to inhuman acts committed for the purpose of establishing and maintaining domination by one racial group of persons over any other racial group of persons and systematically oppressing them. Although the term apartheid was originally associated with the specific instance of South Africa, it now represents a species of crime against humanity under customary international law and the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, according to which the crime of apartheid means inhuman acts committed in the context of an institutionalized regime of systematic oppression and domination by one racial group over any other racial group, with the intention of maintaining that regime. How this applies to Israel. The Palestinian people, and just to clarify that point, I don't really like to use the word the Palestinian people to refer to all Palestinian Arabs living in Israel, because they are not Palestinian by nationality or citizenship. They're actually Israeli Arabs, but we'll call them Palestinians, okay? The Palestinian people are divided into different geographical regions administered by distinct sets of law. Different methods are deployed depending on where Palestinians live. This is the core means by which Israel enforces apartheid. Since 1967, Palestinians as a people have lived in 4 domains, in which the fragments of the Palestinian population are treated differently, but share in common the racial oppression that results from the apartheid regime. These domains are: 1, civil law with special restrictions. Israel has around 50 laws that discriminate against its Arab citizens. Permanent residency law governing Palestinians living in the city of Jerusalem. Military law governing Palestinians, including those in refugee camps, living since 1967 under conditions of belligerent occupation in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Policy to preclude the return of Palestinians, whether refugees or exiles, living outside territory under Israeli control. Just one more piece here, Sebastian, then I'll be done. Domain 1 embraces about 1.7 million Palestinians who are citizens of Israel. For the first 20 years of the country's existence, they lived under martial law and to this day are subjected to oppression on the basis of not being Jewish. That policy of domination manifests itself in inferior services, restricted zoning laws, and limited budget allocations made to Palestinian communities, in restrictions on jobs and professional opportunities. Palestinian political parties can campaign for minor reforms and better budgets, but are legally prohibited by the basic law from challenging. So I would say that again. They are prohibited by the basic law from challenging legislation maintaining that racial regime. The policy is reinforced by the implications of this distinction made in Israel between citizenship and nationality. All Israeli citizens enjoy the former, that is to say, citizenship, but only Jews enjoy the latter, i.e., nationality. National rights in Israel, in Israeli law, signify Jewish national rights. The struggle of Palestinian citizens of Israel for equality and civil reforms under Israeli law is thus isolated by the regime from that of Palestinians elsewhere. The Israeli regime is therefore an apartheid one. Sebastian, just before we sort of kick off though, may I just please clarify the timeline for you of the actual history of, you know, where we are today. I think with your debate with during the day, there's a little bit of confusion there. So I just like to clarify that, if I may. Just holding up for our viewers the map of the land of Palestine, which a lot of people may be familiar with. This is what Palestine looked like sort of geographically before 1917. So it was under the it was part of the Ottoman Empire. Okay. After 1917, it was invaded by Britain in the First World War, and Turkish troops were defeated, and the British took over. This map here refers to. Let's just hold a bit. There we are. This map here is the plan. It is the United Nations 1947 partition plan for partition. Okay, yeah, which was never actually implemented, but it was the plan. Okay, this map here is the situation following the 1947 ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. Okay, 350,000 people were forced out of their homes. Okay, they weren't ordered to leave by the Arab armies like you made out in well, which you claimed in your debate with Julian. If you want more details on that, look at my debate with Ben, which I did yesterday. It's called Israel was founded on terrorism 2.0. So this was the situation after.
Can I make a quick statement? Can I make a quick statement?
I'll be fair. Just yeah, go on. Yeah.
I would like to debate that issue, like with you, like the context of that map and the historical timeline. At a maybe a different debate, we can definitely go in depth with that. But however, I want to I really want to stick on the premise of apartheid state, and I really look for you to defend your case.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Not just give me general statements, but give me more like documentation and stuff.
Okay. I think it is important, Sebastian, that we just get these facts right.
Not for this context.
Okay.
Not for this context.
You know, so, well, yeah, it is actually. It is important. I think, for the viewer's sake as well, just to clarify that, because, you know, your debate with Julian, you're talking about the war of 1960. As Julian pointed out to you, it was actually 1967 when Israel attacked the West Bank and completed the occupation here. And this is what we're left with now. So these territories here are the only bits that Palestinians have some measure of control over. They don't have a government, they just have an authority. Okay, so over to you.
Great. I'm gonna challenge, like, there's some points you made in your definition, and I do, and they're right in line with the definition of apartheid. However, I also define it according to original term, not from a 70s definition, but apartheid from the original the 1940s, the one that Nelson Mandela went through. And apartheid, according to the Africans word, it means separateness. It's a system of racial segregation. It was aimed to protect the domination of the white South Africans over non-white Africans in every aspect of life, which you make a claim that the Jews are actually doing. I was able to write down some questions I wanted to ask you and with regards to a comment you made about political and job opportunities that are available to Israelis that are sort of shunned away from Arabs, so Arabs cannot have the same opportunities. And I challenge this premise on the documentation that exists that Arabs we once had Arabs who served in the judiciary, high level positions in Israeli society, who were descendants of Palestinian refugees who have been fully integrated into um, Israeli society. Now, I make this comparison to South Africa, where apartheid originally comes from, and I have to stick to that basis because if we're gonna, for example, use Jim Crow laws and try to say that hey, what's happening between Russia and Ukraine is like the Jim Crow, we're gonna have to use a definition and compare it and to really like see the comparison. In the same sense with apartheid in Israel and Palestine, we have to use what happened to the South Africans and as a context to use it against what Israel is doing and see if they really match up. And in apartheid South Africa, um, South Africans, if you were black, you could not serve in any high position in South African society because you were non-white. And so when we see Arabs like George Kara, who was on the Supreme Court justice, and Salim Jubran, these two men are non-Jews, and for that matter, Arabs. Wouldn't an apartheid state have laws in place to prevent this from happening? And I pass it on to you prematurely.
Prematurely. Okay. Well, we can just pitch in here wherever we want here. It's not a 2-minute thing. We just just talk.
Oh no, not at all.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. We're not doing that 2-minute thing. But it's like, all right, I'll talk for 2 minutes, then you talk for 2 minutes.
Definitely.
Okay. We just
definitely.
Okay. Well, I mean, first of all, you said like you referred to like my definition of apartheid. It's not my definition. I've got this from the United Nations website. Okay. You're citing something from the 1940s. It's like, okay, but the thing about apartheid, it doesn't mean it's a regime that exactly mirrors South Africa. Yeah, doesn't mean that. It means what I just said in my opening statement. It's the it's the idea
what makes your definition have more strength than mine? I mean, you quoted one from 1970s, and I mentioned to you that apartheid was something that was present in South Africa before the 1970s, and I gave you it comes from the African root word separateness, and I gave you but I really don't want to get down to the controversy of whether whose definition is right or wrong, because I truly believe our definition.
No, Sebastian, it's an internationally recognized definition.
I mean, I don't agree with that statement.
You can't. I not agree. Well, you may not agree with it. It doesn't matter, but things are agreed internationally. It's called the blimey. Right. Okay. It's the Apartheid Convention. Okay. Yeah, so it's an internationally agreed term, just like
all right.
The Geneva Convention is an internationally agreed. You can't say, well, you can say if you want, I don't agree with it. Fine, that's up to you.
That's not what I'm saying.
Say it doesn't apply. It doesn't apply.
I'm not saying it doesn't apply. Law. I never said that. I mentioned your point. I said there are some points you made. I mean that yes, it does define apartheid. However, I talk about the year, like you make it seem like this was when this term actually came like into existence. The UN invented this term, and I'm like, this term existed since 1940 in South Africa, and so why not go to the original definition rather than using a definition that comes 30 years later? But however, I don't want to get too deep into that. But I really want to keep driving this point home. Why is it that if according to your statement that political and job opportunities are barred away from Palestinian Arabs, and I mentioned in South Africa, you could not serve in high positions in African court if you are black, non-white. Why is it that we have two men who are non-Jews, who are in fact Arabs, who George Kara and Salim Jubran, serving in the Supreme Court justices in Israel, if Israel was truly a apartheid state? This could not happen in South Africa. Why is it happening in Israel?
Okay, can I answer that? Okay, because South Africa was a different country, a different place, a different situation. Okay, it is it is defined, but whoops, just lost my earpiece. Then let me start that again. There we are. That's better. Okay, as I said before, the definition of apartheid does not mean that it has to mirror exactly the situation in South Africa. Okay, you can apply it to different regimes all over the world now. Okay, because it's, that is how the law is made. Laws are changed. Things happen which make people get round a table and say, we must examine this and see how, we're going to define this now properly. Things like the Geneva Convention, all these things get defined like this. So, I mean, does that answer your question? It's like, so you were saying something about, why is it that in South Africa, black people couldn't have, a job in the judiciary, stuff like that? Yes. In Israel, there are jobs in the judiciary. You've got Arab MPs, etc., but that's not the point. The point is that there are other things that discriminate against the the people who are ethnically Palestinian. Okay, I mean, for a start,
continue.
As I said in the
you can continue.
You go on.
You can continue. I mean, you were speaking. You can continue. Are you finished with your thoughts?
Well, there's something like I think there's less than 20 Arab members of the Knesset, which is way out of proportion with the level of population. And as I've pointed out to you, and as Julian pointed out to you, enshrined in their law is that those MPs cannot challenge the idea of Israel being an ethnically Jewish state. Okay. It's a racist state.
But I'm gonna be honest with you. I felt you didn't. Yeah. I feel you didn't directly hit the question home. You sort of went like around the question, and I'm not gonna keep pressing on this, but I'm gonna go to a different example. In apartheid South Africa, you weren't permitted as a black South African to be teaching in a state school, even if you were qualified as a non-black South African. In Israel, you have Arabs, and
okay, that's good.
Please,
yeah,
please, Mike. So I allowed you to talk.
That was a
please
different country.
In Israel, you have Arab professors teaching Jewish kids in Jewish-run state schools. How is it that in apartheid South Africa, where racism exists, you can have that? You can have no black teachers teaching in state schools in South Africa, but yet Arabs are allowed to teach Jewish kids in Israel. Do you have a response to that question?
Well, I refer you to the response I gave last time, because South Africa was a different.
What is so different about South Africa and Israel? I mean, what is the difference in regards to the point that I'm trying to drive home? Apartheid. According to how we're like doing the comparisons, what is the major difference between South Africa and Israel? Because if we're gonna say Israel is an apartheid state, why not look at where apartheid actually existed and see where they compare? And that's what I'm trying to do here.
Okay, right. Apartheid doesn't mean that you have to have complete discrimination over one race. It's enough to have partial discrimination over one race.
Okay, so you said partial discrimination. It doesn't have to be full. Okay. However, continue. I want you to finish all your statements. Yes. Continue.
Well, I hope we're not going to talk about South Africa all night, because, it's just a diversion. We're talking about Israel. We're looking at the situation here. I've got some wall maps here to show you. If we're going to spend all night, I mean, like, I pretty much just got out of bed to do this debate. I'm pretty tired. It's what time is it now? 10 to 1 for me here in the morning. I don't want to talk about South Africa all night. I've given you the internationally agreed definition of apartheid. Okay. Now, I want to talk about what's happening in Israel. and to see whether you feel that that is actually, a situation of apartheid.
You sound kind of blurry. I apologize. You sound kind of blurry. Yeah, it sounds kind of blurry.
Oh, can you not hear me? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I gave you all those points. But, I hope you can hear me. Okay. I gave you all those points about, how Israel discriminates against its Palestinian ethnic population. Okay. I mean, do you want to challenge those points? Do you want me to repeat them? Because I've already.
I mean, if you went over them already, I'm sure I heard them well the first time.
The fact that, do you want to challenge the fact that I said that Israel has around 50 laws that discriminate
I would rather drive the apartheid definition home in the context of where we know apartheid to have existed historically, and do that comparison to Israel. And because the whole topic was Israel's an apartheid state. So my goal is to challenge that statement of apartheid exists in Israel. So I mean, I'm trying to be logical here. I'm trying to use the original definition.
Debate. No, you're not.
It's an apartheid state. Israel's an apartheid state. South Africa was an apartheid state.
This debate is not entitled Israel is just like South Africa was. Okay, it's not titled that. It's called Israel is an apartheid state. I have just given you the internationally agreed, recognized definition of apartheid. Okay, which is not, and then for you to sort of say, oh well, it's look, South Africa is like this. Yeah, we all know South Africa was an apartheid state, and now I'm saying that. I mean, not just me, many scholars all around the world are saying the same as me. Okay, that Israel is an apartheid state. Yeah. Now, I said, Israel have got around 50 laws that discriminate against its own Arab citizens. Okay. Now that is just the Israeli Arabs. That is not including the Palestinian people who live in the West Bank, the occupied territories, which is a far, far different story, a much worse story. Are you familiar with the West Bank, Sebastian? Have you looked at the maps now since you've debated with? Okay, so you're familiar with this map here.
I am familiar with the West Bank. However, I really wanna be able to make all the comparisons of apartheid and how it's practiced and give the case of Israel, what's happening in Israel, and be able to really provide a convincing case that apartheid does not exist in Israel. And so I'm going to proceed with my third point now. If you were a black South African living in apartheid South Africa, keyword apartheid, and you had to go see an available white doctor there were special rooms for you to go through as a black South African, and you could not be hospitalized in the same room as a non-black South African in apartheid South Africa. Currently in Israel, you do not have segregated hospitals where non-Jews have to enter to a special room, or they cannot be hospitalized in the same room. In Israel right now, you could be an Arab or whatever race or whatever culture you're from, and you can be hospitalized in the same room as a Jew. Now I'm gonna ask you a question. Do you happen to know if there are any racially divided or culturally divided like centers in Israel that are actually like very open about their policies of segregation like it was in South Africa?
Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Okay, so in apartheid South Africa, if you were non-black, you could there were special exits that you had to go through to see someone of the opposite race. So meaning if you were black and you wanted to go see a white doctor, you had a special exit that you had to go through, and a white person had another exit they had to go through. And they were white they were white only fountains, black only fountains, institutions for whites and blacks. And in the same hospitals, sometimes you could not be in the same hospital. You were in separate hospitals, if you were in the same hospital, you were in separate rooms.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
This division
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Arabs
It's
and
just
Jews in Israel. Does this division exist?
Okay. Right. It's just I understood what you were saying. It's just you asked me some sort of question. Did I know some sort of sensor or something? I don't know. But anyway, well, okay. I've already demonstrated
Arabs and
to you.
Jews
I mean,
can be
we've
the same
already had
hospital.
the argument. We've all
and what you call apartheid Israel.
Yes, of course. Yes. You know. Yes. Okay. You know, I'm not disputing that. I'm disputing other things. I keep repeating to you. I'm not saying that it was exactly like South Africa. Okay. Right. I've already demonstrated to you that that there are 50 different laws. Sorry, 50 laws in Israel that discriminate against its Arab citizens. Also, if you are a Jewish citizen of Israel, you are a national, as opposed to if you are an Arab citizen, you are just a citizen. Now, there are in Hebron, there are areas where Arabs are not allowed to go. So there are roads for Jews only, Arabs only, etc., etc. In the West Bank, where the racial colonies are built, you understand, I take it, that there are around 600,000. Can you hear me, Sebastian? You understand that there are around 600,000 Jewish Israeli settlers living illegally in the Palestinian territories. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. Now I hear you.
Okay. I say you understand that there are around 600,000 Jewish Israelis living in the racial colonies, the illegal racial colonies in the Palestinian territories of the West Bank. Many of these roads that connect them to Israel proper are for, non-Jews who go on them, i.e. Palestinian citizens living in Area C, will be arrested if they go on those roads. Which is why I wanted to show you the map, which, have you ever seen this map? This is the West Bank access restriction map. Are you familiar with the concept of areas A, B, and C within the West Bank?
No.
No?
No.
So, okay, so who has jurisdiction over the West Bank territories? How does that work?
Why are we discussing the West Bank?
Well, because it's an important part of this debate.
In what sense?
In what sense? Because Israel practices a system of apartheid in the West Bank.
How? In what way? Because they won't allow they won't allow certain people that are not like that have no purpose being in that territory from going on that road. That is that why?
Well, two of the reasons. Okay, first of all, right. Let me ask you: the Palestinians who live in the West Bank Area C, what judiciary do they actually come under? Whose judiciary do they come under?
They come under it's a Sharia judiciary. It's they go through a Sharia it's a very complicated system. They do have a Sharia court for
no, it's not.
Arabs.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious.
Are you serious?
I'm very serious.
Where did you find that at? Are you kidding me? In Area C of the West Bank, it's a Sharia system of law.
In Israel, you do have,
yes,
and even in the West Bank, you do have Sharia courts for Arabs. And there was recently a judge who was appointed. She became the first female judge of Israel, and she was
right.
Hannah
Mansour. Let's be serious, okay? What is the lawful authority within Area C of the West Bank?
You brought the point up, so why don't you mention it? Well, I mean, because I mean,
Well, it's
I
very
was not.
important. I mean, if you,
I was
you
looking
know,
to do the
to go on
comparison
about,
between apartheid
I mean,
and
is
looking
this a
to
serious, is this a
how. I
serious
mean, I don't
debate? I mean,
understand
to say that
how
it's
this is
Sharia
defending your case.
law, goodness me.
I don't know how this is
Listen,
defending your
well, I'll
case
tell
that
you,
this is apartheid.
right, the Palestinian occupants of the, sorry, the Palestinian residents of Area C of the West Bank, which I will show you, is this area here. I've actually put a link in our debate below here, Sebastian, which you can actually go on to. It's fairly near to the bottom of the comment section here, where you can actually look at a proper version of this as an online version on a PDF, and you can print it out if you wish. Okay, can you see this light blue area here on the map? Yeah, do you see that? Okay. Right, that is Area C of the West Bank. Okay, within that area, Israel has complete security and judicial control over that. Okay, so Palestinians come under military law in that area. Jewish Israeli citizens who live in that area illegally, as it happens, come under Israeli civil law. So there we have a clear example of one law for one, and this is officially one law for one and one for another. Okay, so what do you think of that?
I can't hear. Wow. Your last statement was kind of blurry.
What happened? What happened,
Okay. I'll repeat that I said that within that area, Area C of the West Bank, can you hear me? Is that any better?
A little bit.
Sebastian?
Yeah, a little bit.
Have you got an earpiece? Are you using an earpiece?
No, I'm not using an earpiece, but I
earpiece?
can. I mean, you can hear me. So I mean, the problem is not probably on my end.
Yeah, but I'm using an earpiece. Listen, it's about. Like, I know you're fairly new to debating. You're better off really getting yourself an earpiece, okay, and a microphone, because otherwise, you know, like if you're using like your laptop microphone, sometimes the speakers the sound of the speakers come back into the microphone, and it just kind of
I can hear you well now. Now I can hear you. I hear you well now.
Yeah. Okay, I'll make the point again. In Area C of the West Bank, okay, so this is illegally occupied territory by Israel, okay, since 1967. This Area C is where Israel have built these racial colonies, okay? Now, within those colonies, there live around 600,000 Jewish Israeli citizens, okay? They are subject to Israeli civil law. The Palestinians who live within that same area, in dreadful conditions, I must say, usually, because a lot of their villages have been destroyed because they've been bulldozed to make way for the colonies and the segregation wall, Sebastian. They are subject to military law. Do you understand that distinction? Just give me a thumbs up.
I mean, okay. You mentioned just now. You said Israel occupies the West Bank illegally. But under international law, it says that military occupations are permitted following an aggressive attack by a neighboring state. Jordan once occupied the West Bank, and it was in aggressive attack towards Israel that Israel was able to drive the Jordanians back into their territory and take over the West Bank. So by international law, it is legal for Israel to occupy the West Bank because Jordan aggressively attacked it, and Jordan is a neighboring state.
No, they didn't. No.
Now, I'm going to give an example.
They didn't.
Now you live in the UK. Under international law, your neighboring countries are France. You have Ireland. If they were to do an aggressive attack on the UK has every legal international right to occupy them in war. Every right internationally. That's according to international law. And this is the same that happened in Israel. Now, why does international law says this for all countries, and this should be any different from Israel? Why is it illegal when Israel does it?
Okay. Well, first of all, you've obviously been reading a lot of fairy stories, because you made that ridiculous claim to Julian that 1948.
Why are we using a debate? Why are we using comments from another debate to discuss our debate here?
Well, because
we have to stay within our debate. Let us talk within the context of our debate. I'd rather do that.
Well, okay, but it's to illustrate really how invalid some of your points are.
I mean, come on.
No, it doesn't matter. Your sources are very suspicious, because you claim that the Palestinians were told to leave. Whereas,
why are you using comments that I made in another debate?
Now,
okay,
they're all in agreement.
Okay, Mike.
That those people were ethnically cleansed. 1967.
All due respect, okay, I'm gonna use your comments in this debate to try and challenge you, then trying to use comments you made in another debate to try and substantiate my debate with you.
That's fine.
All right, look. Okay, I allow
that's
you to
fine.
Speak.
So let's go to 1967. Okay, no, because you need me to answer the thing about you said that the Jordanians attacked.
Why are you using comments I made in another debate to substantiate this debate?
Sebastian, Jordan did not attack Israel in 1967. Okay, it is well documented now, well documented by Israeli historians themselves, that Israel, the IDF, used an excuse of Israel mobilizing in the Sinai Desert. They used that because the UN peacekeepers had just left. Okay, they used that as an excuse to complete the occupation. Okay, so they were not attacked by Jordan, and they certainly weren't attacked by Palestinians. Okay, Palestine, they didn't have an army. Okay, secondly, right, yes, country has a right to defend itself. Okay, it does not have the right to acquire territory through military conquest. That is enshrined in the 1945 United Nations Charter. Okay.
Okay, I never said Israel did a conquest. I mentioned if a neighboring state aggressively attacks you have an obligation to country and you can occupy them. Now, can I ask you a question? Do you happen to know? Do you happen to know how long Jordan occupied the West Bank prior to Israel taking it over?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
From 1948 to 1967. Okay.
You're a year different from what is documented 1949 to 1967.
Okay. 1940. Well, okay,
but it's okay. The years is not a big issue.
No, listen, it's because I have 1948 is when the fighting started. So you could argue, did it start in, was it actually 1949 or 48? The point is, it was as a result of a conflict which erupted in 1948, and then in 1967, Israel then attacked and occupied the West Bank and East Jerusalem.
Well, you can only lose a territory you once occupied if you were defeated, and it is well substantiated. You can have any rabbi tell you this happened and this happened and this happened, but it is clear that Jordan attacked Israel because Israel had no settlements. There was no reason, and there was no real excuse for why Jordan attacked, because they just hate Israel. They just always hated Israel, and so they used that territory as a means of having better access to Israeli towns in regards to being able to launch rockets and be able to launch attacks into them. And this was really evident in 2014 when you had Israel go in and try to take out Hamas tunnels that were used in civilian population, that were planted in hospitals, planted in different places, so to launch attacks into Israel. This existed in 1967, and during the 6-day war that Jordan got involved in, despite relentless efforts by Israel to keep Jordan out. Now I want to piggyback on another point now, but I just felt like I just wanted to just sort of challenge that point you made earlier. But why is it currently right now Arabs can vote in general elections in Israel, when you have in apartheid South Africa, you have non-whites couldn't vote in general elections, and they were citizens of the population. So you have Arab citizens who are citizens of Israel in this democracy being able to vote for the leaders of their choice, but yet in apartheid South Africa, where apartheid actually exists, there's a separateness, a discrimination against any self-determination to decide your candidate, to be able to be involved politically, or to be able to even start your own campaign. There is no law hindering it.
Because South Africa, Sebastian,
yes,
is a different country. Okay?
But we're using apartheid. So why don't we like see how it applies? How about we focus on this point?
Sebastian, we have already established that apartheid does not solely apply to South Africa. The United Nations has defined it. You know, they have established that it does not apply only to South Africa. Look it up, okay? Secondly, the almost 2 million Palestinian residents of the West Bank cannot vote in the Israeli elections. Did you know that?
No, Israel. No, Arabs, citizens in Israel can vote.
I didn't say that. I said Palestinian residents of the West Bank cannot vote in the Israeli elections.
But the conversation was Israel is an apartheid state. I mean, it never said West Bank is an apartheid state. So I mean, I understand it's occupied by Israel, but we're talking Israel we're talking about in Israel. Israel is an apartheid state. So anyone living in Israel, you're expected to experience the same to experience apartheid in the sense of separateness, in the same of division, in the sense of being barred from opportunities like someone of Jewish ancestry. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to debunk that statement, and I'm providing the comparisons where we know apartheid to have existed, we know how it was applied, and seeing if this case applies in Israel. And so far, I am not convinced that it applies in Israel. I mean, we're not talking about territories here. We're not talking about things I commented from last debate. I want you to present a case to me that convinces me and convinces everyone here watching that Israel is an apartheid state. Where is the separateness? Where's the division? How are they divided? How are Arabs divided? How are anyone that is not of Jewish race divided? And I provided you people who have opportunities, high positions in society, people who are politically involved, people who are able to teach in schools that even if they're non-Jews, they're able to teach in schools to people of different ethnicities and races and religions, etc. And I have not had any statement that challenged that, and I wonder why.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. I've told you now 3 times. Do you want me to? Have I got to say it again? Look, we've got 1 minute and 50 seconds left. I've already mentioned now three times in my opening statement and again the 50 laws that discriminate against Arab citizens of Israel. Okay, I've already said about that. You have different statuses of, like, if you're a Jewish citizen or an Arab citizen, you have like citizenship or nationality. Okay. There's another one I was going to think of then, but I'm tired, quite honestly. Blimey. You know, how many times have we got to go over it? Let me go back to my original thing. You know, I've done this now so many times, and you keep saying that I'm not giving you reasons, and I have. I've given you loads of reasons.
All right. Are you finished? You're finished, right?
You know, they can't. They cannot chat. You know, it's the Arab. Anyway, I think we're going to have to sign off soon. Perhaps what we ought to do is have this debate, because as I say, no, listen, it's 1 o'clock in the morning for me, Sebastian, because you were over an hour late for this debate. I'm really tired. I think it's
Can I just make a closing statement?
Yeah, I'm going to pass on to you now, and I'll say good night. Okay, so you carry on.
As a student who has studied what apartheid is, I sincerely ask anyone who has accused Israel of practicing apartheid after watching this debate to stop preaching this rhetoric. You are damaging any chance for peace in the Middle East. and most of all, destroying the memory of the real apartheid. Stop listening to politicians and their propaganda. Start critically. Then if your opinion still